scientist.
Suffice it that the blood of 1,000 men and women was spilled in these laws. Limbs twisted and broken, eyes gouged from bloody sockets, flesh burned black.
Please. No way for dead. In death, there are no accidents, no coincidences, no mishaps, and no escapes. What you have to realize is that we're all just a mouse that a cat has by the tail.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
Hi, Adam. Thanks for coming on the show. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me. Doing good.
Great. So you're out in California.
You are correct.
Great. How long have you lived out there?
I've lived out here all my life in various parts of the state.
Oh, okay.
Southern California, Central California, Sierra Nevadas.
Great.
Okay.
Well, we're talking with Adam Gorightly tonight. This is pre-recorded about his latest release, the Beast/Best of Adam Gorightly. What can you tell our listeners about your latest collection?
My latest, the Beast of Adam Gorightly, is my collected rantings over the past decade or so, from 1992 through 2004, in a really wide-ranging collection on a lot of different things, from mind control to major league pitchers pitching on LSD to just a whole number of things. Among the titles of some of the pieces are Ritual Magic, Mind Control and the UFO Phenomena, Tales from the Astral Plane, the Manson Family and the Beatles, on and on. Pretty eclectic collection of high strangeness.
Oh yeah, and all of these, or most of these, I guess I should say, have been published in previous works before.
Yes, for the most part, yeah.
There's a lot of interesting stories in there that when I was reading through the book, I was surprised a lot of the stuff that I found that you just don't normally find in a lot of these type of books. One of the stories that fascinated me a lot was the story, I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy that used to go to all the baseball or the sporting events anyway, with the wig and the whole get-up that took hostage toward the end of your recounting of this.
Yeah, that was rock and Rollin' Stewart, the guy a lot of people saw for several years, starting in the mid-'70s. This was the guy in the multicolored fro he wore on his head. They called him Rainbow Head, and he showed up at all these sporting events over the years, situating himself so he could be seen by the cameras of the major networks. You'd usually see him bouncing around behind, say, the pitching mound, or in places where he could be seen. In later years, he kind of took a biblical slant and was known to hold up placards with different biblical passages. Eventually, Mr. Stewart went off the deep end and ended up taking part in a hostage siege. He took in a hotel in Southern California, took one of the maids there at the hotel hostage over several hours, trying to get across the message that these were the end times. Eventually he was taken into custody and nowadays resides in jail. So he had a pretty interesting career.
No, is he still in prison?
Yes, he is.
Wow. Poor rock and roll Stewart.
Yeah.
But I guess he sort of paved the way for other sports fanatics to wear multicolored wigs and dance
Yeah,
around.
there was several of them that were inspired by Mr. Stewart, who carried the torch over the years, showing up at all these major events. I'm not sure exactly why Roland went off the deep end. I think he felt that people weren't taking him seriously, and prior to that hostage siege, he had actually shown up at a couple events, the Masters and a boxing event, and set off smoke bombs, which kind of upset the authorities at the time, but
I imagine
once
so.
again it all culminated in that hostage siege when he fell from grace.
Huh.
You also talk about one of the other collections, or one of the other collected rantings. Talks about the Burning Man festival that happens every year in California. What can you tell our listeners about that? I'm sure a lot of them are familiar with Burning Man, but I'm sure a lot of them probably aren't.
Actually, it happens out in Nevada, the Black Rock Desert, annually. Huge gathering of freaks numbering, nowadays from anywhere from 15 to even 20,000, if you can believe that. I attended some of the Burning Man festivals back in the late 90s. It started in the early 90s with just a loose-knit group of folks. Actually started on a beach in Northern California, there in the Bay Area, where the guy who started the whole festival, Lawrence Harvey, went out, and this is after he had just broken up with an affair he was having, so he, for some reason, decided to memorialize that affair by burning a wicker man that he constructed out on the beach. At that time, the man was about 15 feet tall, so he sacrificed it there, and a few dozen people showed up, and the event continued to grow and feature pyrotechnics and people running around with clothes off and taking drugs and doing strange things. And eventually they moved it out to the desert where they wouldn't be harassed by the authorities, and the event has just continued to grow over the years, and it's a combination of partly a scene of artists who go out there and have different themes. Each year is a different theme. Back when I went, it was a fertility theme, so this collection of artists and freaks and whatnot go out there and for 3 days over a weekend, basically celebrate this kind of free-thinking nature. In recent years, as it's expanded, there's been more control over the event, so it's not quite the free-for-all it was back in the 90s.
15 feet, that's a pretty good size man for a first time. Can you tell us what they did last year, or at least in the previous years you've been, how tall it's grown to be?
Yeah, the man now, he's about 100 feet tall, and it's quite the
spectacle
operation, just building the man every year and setting him on fire and watching him come down. It's become quite the scene out there. But once again, it really doesn't have the flavor of the earlier days when there was always a hint of danger there as well, because there weren't a lot of control on the pyrotechnics and things going down. Nowadays, it's pretty much controlled, but it's still a kind of a Disneyland for freaks.
Well, who's building the man now these days? Is it still?
It's a group. They have engineers and artists, and it's overseen by Lawrence Harvey, the guy who started the whole thing. So they have a whole crew there that shows up, several days ahead of time and builds the man and props him up.
Oh, okay. This is somewhat unrelated, but you remember J.E. Smith, right, Scott? When we interviewed him. Well, in his book, he was talking about one of his co-authors, Jim Keith, and apparently Mr. Keith was injured at a particular Burning Man festival. Were you present at that time, Adam, or do people just get injured all the time, or do you even know what I'm talking?
Actually, I believe that happened a year after I attended my last Burning Man, and I talk about that in the article I wrote that Jim Keith, the famous conspiracy author, and who was a colleague and friend of mine over the years, he wrote a number of books for, a lot of them for Illuminate Press.
Now that ended up killing him, didn't it?
That was a fatal injury, wasn't it?
Yeah, he fell off a stage there and hurt his knee, and it seemed like a minor injury. The next day he went in to, it's kept hurting worse, so he went into the emergency, and I forget what hospital, somewhere out there in Nevada, and he went in for surgery on the leg and was put under anesthesia and never woke up. Apparently during the operation, a blood clot was released and anyway ended up killing him. A lot of people have ascribed his untimely demise as part of conspiracy. In fact, this is a theory that the editor for Steam Shovel Press, Ken Thomas, brought up. Interestingly enough, Jim was involved once again with Illuminate Press, who published a lot of his books, and it was actually at the time of his death had joined up on the staff of Illuminate and became an editor. The main guy behind Illuminate Press, Ron Bonds, the publisher of these controversial books, also had an untimely demise during the same period that Jim Keith died. So, and once again, the circumstances surrounding the death were raised the eyebrows of a lot of conspiracy researchers. Ron Bonds died from food poisoning. So, anyway, a lot of people have been suspect about their deaths.
I guess it is kind of strange. I mean, but it's conceivable that a leg injury could result in death. But certainly there's no smoking gun that anybody found. I know Ken Thomas looked into it a bit, but once again, it kind of raises the eyebrows that these two guys who were partners in arms, working close together and publishing some pretty controversial material, should die during that same time.
I think it just anytime someone that's well known in a conspiracy community passes under mysterious circumstances, it's definitely going to raise some kind of eyebrow.
Yeah.
So what got you into writing originally, Adam? When did you first start your career?
Oh shucks, as a teenager, I started writing strange little poems for some reason. Got involved with a rock band at that time, so really started off writing a lot of lyrics for that band that were kind of dealt with wizards and demons and paranormal things and that type of stuff, and that evolved over the years to writing fiction. And in the late 80s, the whole zine movement started. A lot of people self-publishing their own publications, a lot of basically underground scene that was going on. I got involved in writing for some of those zines during that period, a lot, and the ones I wrote for dealing with paranormal subjects and UFOs and psychedelics and how all these interrelate. So I started networking with a lot of the people who were putting out these zines and writing for them, and once again it kind of evolved eventually to writing books. My first book in 2001 was on the Manson family, entitled The Shadow Over Santa Susana, Black Magic, Mind Control, and the Manson Family Mythos, and since then I've written 3 other books. Why I got involved in all this high weirdness, I'm not quite sure. I had a strange encounter with UFOs in the late 70s, and I think that set off some strange synapses in my brain that has led me down this path over the year, and also an interest in conspiracies and conspiracy theories. And I spent a lot of my time, writing about different conspiracies and mind control and these type of things. So how and why, I don't know exactly why, but here I am.
You wouldn't happen to want to share that bizarre UFO encounter with us, would you?
Oh, sure, why not?
All right.
It happened, like I said, in Central California in the late 70s, actually 1979, and it started, there was a place we hung out, it was the house of the Bison brothers, and we'd often go there and dabble in partaking in certain mind-enhancing, altering things. And one night we, a colleague and I, dropped some LSD, and
wow.
And anyway, it got kind of intense there, hanging around at the house. So we just split and started walking, hooking it on foot, and we got to a ditch bank there, a levee, and before we even got up on the levee, we remarked to each other, wow, what if we saw a UFO tonight, Nobody'd ever believe us because we were under the influence. And not long after that, we saw our first UFO, and the sight of it was so spectacular, it made me fall to one knee. And during the course, we saw, at least 8 or so UFOs that night. We were describing to each other what we were seeing, and it was, we were seeing the same thing. So if it was an hallucination, it was a dual hallucination. The crafts were various shapes and sizes, your saucers and cigar-shaped, and just a whole variety of things. Some of them even seemed cartoonish, with multicolored propellers spinning around. Really a strange thing. The last one we saw was like a shooting star that stopped in mid-flight and transformed into a UFO, and that's the last one we saw. Then we turned around and walked back in the direction we came, and when we got to the spot where we saw the first UFO, a beam of light shot down from the sky, emanating from nothing we could see. It was about 50 yards away. Then that was the last part of the experience. Now it's interesting. Recently, just the weekend before last, I was a speaker at the Retro UFO convention, where I talked about this experience a bit. The title of my lecture was entitled, "Were the Early UFO Contactees Ritual Magicians?" where I presented the theory that UFO contactees, the main ones back in the 50s, basically conjured up UFOs, perhaps sometimes unwittingly, much like a ritual magician will conjure up angels and demons and whatnot. And I think that's partly one of the theories that explains my experience. As I mentioned before, before we even saw the UFOs or whatever they were, we kind of planted that seed. Wow, what if we saw UFOs, dude? No one would ever believe us. And so that's partly my theory, the one that fits best of what happened that night. And also the theory, I'm not sure if you're familiar with UFO researcher John Kill, who the Mothman prophecies was based upon. And he also had this theory of what he called the super spectrum, how people, psychics and whatnot, can tune into basically what is always around us, but what normal people can't see. And I think that's what happened with my friend and I. Being under the influence, we were able to see, it's almost akin to looking through infrared goggles and being able to see, what the naked eye normally can't see. But and this is the same thing that a lot of the early UFO contactees, they were involved in channeling and doing these type of things, where they're basically tapping into a psychic or paranormal realm. So anyway, that's kind of a long-winded answer there.
No, that's fine. That kind of ties in with the sort of the age-old theory that sort of more tribal and animistic cultures who partake in, like, well, for example, the Native Americans with peyote, and and other cultures, they sort of reach some kind of, using some kind of hallucinogenics, open up certain pathways in the brain where they have these vision quests or visions where they basically see the other side, basically. So
exactly, and a lot of those early contactees, it was like a shamanic experience. A lot of them went out to the desert where they witnessed these things. Adamski and George Van Tassel and George Hunt Williamson, a lot of their experiences were out in the desert, and prior to that they had some sort of calling leading them out there. Now, the experience itself, I was talking about how, we saw, during our experience, we saw, a number of different crafts changing. They looked almost cartoonish. They almost, like they had an intelligence that they were almost, some type of energy or critters basically putting on a performance for us. And that, once again, was kind of John Kill's theory that once you tap into that realm and call forth these energies or entities, then your belief systems filter that, and they appear as, say if you're religiously oriented, then you'd have something similar to the Fatima sightings of Virgin Mary. Other people might see Bigfoot. In current times, UFOs have kind of fit this blueprint. In other cultures, you have the Tibetans had what they called tulpas, or the Native Americans had shapeshifters. So I believe that's, at the core of the experience, that it's an interactive experience between humans and whatever these ultra-dimensional entities really are. They might be, as Hume suggested in his book on flying saucers, basically the collective consciousness of our planet manifesting itself.
Now, have you had any UFO experiences since then?
No, I haven't. I had other odd experiences with astral projection, for instance, which was almost had certain aspects that were similar to the alien abduction experience. But a lot of these experiences happened during the same period. I had the UFO experience, and some were, related to dreams as well, but dreams that were so lucid that it made me really suspect that I was tapping into these other realms during parts of the dream state, or during what's known as hypnagogic dreaming. But yeah, that encounter under the influence was the only quote-unquote UFO sightings I've had.
Fair enough.
You don't. I guess the only thing you can look back and say, this is a legitimate experience, is due to the fact that both you and your colleague were experiencing the same things at the same time. Mm-hmm. So we can look at that and empirically kind of and write off any kind of effects that, well, obviously the effects of the acid may have actually caused you to see this, especially with your talking about it, thinking about it in an expanded mindset. But I mean, just in general, if you're both describing the exact same thing, I mean, that kind of writes off the idea that it was due solely to the drugs.
Yeah, what's interesting, my friend and I had a really close simpatico relationship. We wrote a lot of music together, and it was one of those relationships where one person start to say something, the other would finish, and a lot of telepathic things. So there was that going on as well with us. Now, I don't believe the experience would have happened without the drugs, but then once again, I certainly don't discount what we witnessed.
Well, we're going to take a break right now. We're here with Adam Gorightly on World of the Unexplained tonight. Keep in mind, listeners, that this is a pre-recorded broadcast, so we will not be taking calls on our 800 number tonight. Yes. But listen in, and we'll be right back after this. And we're back with Adam Gorightly. Adam, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
All right, great. All right, we were talking about your UFO experiences, and you had mentioned some astral projection experiences. Have you had any paranormal experiences?
Maybe ghost sightings, for example, anything like that.
What kind of sightings?
Ghost sightings, ghost spirits,
Demons, anything, angels, anything you would...
Well, my... the astral projection experiences were pretty strange. That was another thing where I think I planted a seed, and you have to be careful what you wish for sometime. I got into reading about astral projection, having a desire to do it, and eventually some strange experiences unfolded where I had a number of these astral experiences, and towards the end they got pretty strange and spooky, where I felt like demonic type spirits were trying to take over my body and do some type of high weirdness. So after that last experience, I made a concerted effort not to astral project anymore.
I can understand that.
I think I was going into these experiences, I was in my teens, early 20s, without really preparing for them, so I wasn't ready for what transpired.
Now, in reading your books, the ones that you had sent us, your latest collection, and The Prankster and the Conspiracy, I've noticed, the writing is just, it's phenomenal. It's very prolific. It's very concise. It's very well organized. I was wondering, do you have any backing, any background as far as college journalism, anything like that? Because it's just really well written.
Yeah, none at all, really. I took a couple of creative writing courses here and there, junior colleges and that type of stuff, but, it's just something that came naturally. That doesn't mean it didn't take a lot of work to hone those skills, and you just get better by doing it over and over and polishing it, and at the same time trying to keep a sense of spontaneity with the writings as well. So, and it's a combination of I'm an avid reader, so being influenced by great writers and learning from them and going forth, it's a lot of work, but on the other hand, I enjoy doing it. But yeah, no basic formal training.
It's really surprising. I have an English degree, and all the people that ever get English degrees, we always say we're going to write a book, and we never do. but it's and I wrote for the paper in college and all that good stuff. But I was looking through this, and I mean, it's just really well organized. It's really concise. It's really well written. And I'm like, where did this guy go to school at? That was the first thing that popped in my head.
I think it's in the bloodline too. I don't want to mention names of other family members since I use a pseudonym.
Oh yes, I understand.
But I have a brother who's he teaches journalism, and he's been an editor for newspapers in California. So I think it's something that is partly genetic.
Okay. Well, so where did you come up with the pseudonym Adam Gorightly? How did that come about?
Well, it stems from that my UFO experience. I wrote an article for Crash Collusion magazine back in the early 90s, which was entitled UFOs, LSD, and Me. And I didn't want to tag my real name to it, so Adam Gorightly kind of stuck, and I got a little bit of a cult fan base there that knows that name, so I just ran with it. Where it came from, I don't know.
Okay.
Plucked it out of the air.
Yeah, just one of these.
What's your favorite piece in your latest collection?
Well, let me pull it up and look at it here. I don't know. They're all my children. A little dead air here. I don't know if I have a favorite, to tell you the truth. I love them all.
What was your? Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
What was I guess what do you consider your strangest piece, or your most highest of the high weird?
Yeah.
Well, I like the piece entitled Tuesday Well is Watching You, about the cult secret societies in Santa Cruz, which was just a fun piece to write. I took a trip to Santa Cruz and met with a couple individuals who were positing certain strange theories that Tuesday Weld is was an Illuminati high priestess who basically inspired the counterculture of the late 60s behind the scenes, and that was a pretty high weirdness quotient to it. So that's probably now I think of it, my favorite piece in the book, just because probably it's the most recent essay in the book that I've written.
No, you can visit Adam's website at www.adamgorightly.com, and you can check out. Now they can buy the books there, Adam.
Yeah, I'll sell. I have signed copies available through my website, or you can also go to Amazon.com and pick up any of the books. I also have a second website, which is MansonMythos.com, that's dedicated to my book on the family, The Shadow over Santa Susana. But yeah, all my books are available at AdamGorightly.com.
Okay, great. Now, you're a 33rd degree Mason, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Actually, that was a bit of a joke.
Okay, all right. I was wondering about that.
Freaked out a few people with that. Various radio interviews, I get asked that, are you really a 33rd degree Mason? In reality, I am a 23rd degree Discordian.
Okay.
And my name in the Scordian Society is the Wrong Reverend Houdini Kundalini of the Church of Unwavering Indifference.
Wow. Okay, that's a mouthful. And we thought the world of the unexplained thing was tough.
Very poetic somehow. The Church of Wavering Indifference.
Tell us about the Discordian Society.
Yeah, I'm very interested in this.
In the Discordian Society?
Yeah. Let's hear some stuff about
I deal with that bit in my book on Kerry Thornley, which is the prankster and the conspiracy, the story of Kerry Thornley and how he met Oswald and inspired the counterculture. Now, I got all these books that you got to take a deep breath to get the whole title out. The Discordian Society basically was founded in, or discovered, or created, or however you want to look at it. The Scordian Society, which is based on the religion Discordianism, was started in a bowling alley in Southern California in the late 50s by Kerry Thornley and Greg Hill, a couple nerdy teenagers who started this religion dedicated to the worship of the Greek goddess of chaos and discord named Eris. And the Bible, which they began writing at that period, was the Principia Discordia, based upon the revelations of Eris. Over the years, the Principia Discordia kind of evolved from each generation, and eventually, with its first printing in 65, was like about 5 copies, but by the late 60s, the book had become quite popular with the counterculture, and basically it was a spoof on all the major religions, and got a lot of cool people involved in what basically became kind of a sociological experiments with the likes of authors Robert Anton Wilson and Camden Benares and Luis Lacy all became part of this sociological experiment and spoof, which was the Scordian Society.
Huh. And how did you get involved with this originally?
Well, Kerry Thornley was a very interesting character who fascinated me. I talked earlier about getting involved in the zine scene of the late 80s, early 90s, which was basically kind of a forerunner to a lot of conspiracy and high weirdness you'll find on the internet now. And I started coming across these articles by this guy named Kerry Thornley that I couldn't quite make much sense out of. There were these convoluted conspiracy theories, but something drew me to his writings, and as I came to learn more about Kerry Thornley, I became more fascinated. Thornley, along with discovering the Scordian Society, was also a target of Jim Garrison's JFK assassination probe, later recounted in the Oliver Stone's movie JFK, and Garrison claimed that Kerry was one of the Oswald doubles that were running around pretending to be Oswald, basically painting a picture that Oswald was some berserk lone nut commie. Previously, Thornley had known Oswald in the Marines and was actually writing a book about Oswald prior to the assassination. Garrison claimed that Thornley was part of the team that basically orchestrated the whitewash or the subsequent scapegoating of Oswald after the assassination. Thornley claimed that he had no knowledge of this, though later in the mid-70s, memories started coming back to him that perhaps Garrison was on the right track and that Thornley had been a mind control victim that had been sucked into this JFK assassination plot. Anyway, all of this, my interest in Kerry Thornley is what got me into Discordianism, and it gets to be a convoluted and complicated subject, but I think I lay it out all pretty well in my book on Thornley.
Yeah. Conspiracy. Go ahead.
Yeah. So okay. So this movement is still going on today, then, the Discordians, and
it's continued to grow over the year, and you have all these various chapters of the Scordian Society. Like I have my own chapter, the Church of Unwavering Difference, which only has one member, but
wonder who that is.
Yeah, who could that be?
If you go on the internet today, you'll see that the Scordian Society still has a huge presence, and anybody can become a Discordian pope if they're blessed by another Discordian pope. So now I'll go ahead and bless you and all your listeners. You are all Discordian popes, so go forth and don't take crap from anybody.
Okay. Well,
Pope Trent.
Hello, High Reverend Father Scott.
If you want to be popes.
Okay.
If we want to be, okay.
I think I would like to be a patriarch, if that's okay.
Okay.
All right.
This somewhat reminds me of the Subgenius Church.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well,
the Church
basically, the Scordian Society a real heavy influence on the Church of Subgenius, and Kerry Thornley was also involved with the Church of Subgenius. So they all evolved from each other. The worship of with Discordianism, with the Greek goddess of Discord, or if you're a Subgenius, you worship the floating head of Arnold Palmer.
The Discordian, not the Discordian, but the Subgenius Church, the Church of Bob, Reverend Stang, we actually carry him on our network.
Yeah,
so the hour of slack.
Yeah, he comes after.
Yeah. And
he comes after us.
Reverend Stang provided one of the probably the best photo in my book of that Kerry Thornley, I guess, sent out as a Christmas card or something one year of himself. Let me see if I can phrase this: diddling a chair. Having intercourse with a chair.
Diddling a chair. Actually, I think that picture...
Originally, the publishers said they're going to publish it without covering up his member, but they ended up putting a black box over it.
Yeah, I see that.
We're looking at that now, actually. And that's in your book, The Prankstring Conspiracy. Tell us... Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, for Bob.
For Bob. Yeah. Tell us about what you found when you investigated this this Thornley Oswald connection.
Well, I think there is something at the core of what Thornley claimed happened to him, and what Garrison was looking at, as far as this apparatus, this network that was going on in New Orleans before and after the Kennedy assassination. There's no distinctive smoking gun, but interviewing some of the folks who had known Thornley, they felt, and these were Carrie's close friends who knew him back then, that something happened when Thornley was in New Orleans, and they believed, there was something to Thornley's theory that he had became a tool of some, or a pawn in some type of MK Ultra mind control experiment that might have began in the when he was in the Marines with Oswald, and both of them were used as dupes and pawns. That's my suspicion. Once again, I don't have any conclusive smoking gun, but I think something was going on there.
Huh.
Well, who do you think?
Oh, go ahead. Okay. Well,
and I kind of, in the book, I lay it out and connect some dots, and basically let the readers come to their own final opinion of, what went down. I try to do that in all my books.
Okay. Yeah, leave the final answer to the reader, so to speak.
Yeah, because I'm not convinced or unconvinced of anything myself. I try to go into these things pretty open-minded and just connect a few dots and throw it out there for people to come to their own conclusions.
Okay. Well, this question just sort of popped in my head spontaneously, and if Oswald and Thornley, they're serving in the same. Are they serving in the same unit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If they're subject to this mind control, so to speak, obviously the government was planning to use them for something, I'm assuming, and if that's the case, then one has to suspect that others, if you believe that it's true, then one has to suspect that others are, or maybe others in that same unit, I don't know, are also being used for the same mind control. Who's
kind of like a Manchurian candidate.
Yeah, whose purposes are not yet revealed.
I should back up a little bit. Thornley met Oswald when they were stationed at El Toro Marine Base in Southern California. This is when Thornley first got into the Marines. It was like 59, and Oswald had just returned from Atsugi base in Japan, and
that's where my father was actually stationed.
Okay,
at,
that's
I believe.
Interesting.
Because he told me that he was stationed on some base in Japan with Oswald. He said.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's always kind of weird. Anyway,
yeah.
Enough personal notes.
Yeah, and so Thornley, after he spent some time with Oswald there at El Toro, he himself went to Atsugi. Later, there was an article in Rolling Stone in the I think it was the late 70s that identified Atsugi as a CIA base, and that these MK Ultra experiments were going on there. Later in New Orleans, Thornley met up with some shadowy characters by the name of Slim Brooks and another guy who was known as Brother-in-Law, and they started having theoretical discussions about how to kill a president, and in particular JFK. Thornley at the time thought it was a morbid intellectual exercise, and he at that time Carey was gathering material for a book he was writing on the New Orleans, basically the seamy underbelly of New Orleans, and talking to colorful characters like Slim Brooks and Brother-in-Law, who were involved in with the underworld, and both claimed to have intelligence connections. So at the time, Carey didn't think much of these conversations, but later they came back to haunt him. In the early 70s, he came across a article that later turned into a book called Coup d'etat in America, where I'm not sure if you're familiar with the three tramps that were in Daley Plaza on the day of the JFK assassination. Some people have claimed these three tramps were involved in the assassination, and in this book, Coup d'etat in America, it identified one of the three tramps as E. Howard Hunt, later of Watergate fame and the notorious spy who was involved in the Bay of Pigs invasion, and people claim were involved in the JFK assassination. Anyway, when Carey saw this picture of the old man tramp who was supposedly E. Howard Hunt, it triggered those memories of meeting this fellow brother-in-law in New Orleans, and he immediately identified brother-in-law as being E. Howard Hunt. And just to close this loop, E. Howard Hunt was spent some time while with the CIA at the Atsugi base in Japan. Carey suspected that E. Howard Hunt, a.k.a. brother-in-law, was one of his mind controllers and handlers.
Huh. Well,
that's a pretty convoluted explanation, but that's some. When I talk about connecting dots, those are some of the dots that connect Carey to possible brain tampering as part of some MK Ultra experimentation, to create a Manchurian candidate that could be used as a pawn or scapegoat in the JFK assassination fight show.
Jim Garrison, in his book on the Trail of the Assassins, he mentioned Clay Shaw, whichever he goes by, as part of being this underbelly of the society, working in basically working with the CIA and other governmental offices like the Office of Naval Intelligence.
Yeah.
Maybe even the FBI. Did Carey ever mention his knowledge of knowing Mr. Shaw, Mr. Bertrand, whatever he went by at the time?
Well, what's interesting, we were talking about the period when Carey met these shadowy characters in New Orleans. During that same period, Oswald had spent time in New Orleans, and there was a witness who came forward claiming she saw Thornley and Oswald together during that period, though Thornley denied it at the time. Later, when after he saw this book, Coup d'etat in America, with this information on E. Howard Hunt, all these memories started bubbling up. It basically opened a floodgate, and he later claimed that he indeed had met Clay Shaw and some of these other players while he was in New Orleans. Now, other people have written off these Carey's claims as basically delusions, and that he had become a paranoid schizophrenic during his later years. But then again, this paranoid schizophrenia might have been a result of mind control. The after effects of mind control and the brain tampering that he had allegedly been a victim of, that he believed he had been a victim of. Now, what gets really crazy, some of Carey's later theories kind of seemingly went off the deep end. He claimed that Robert Anton Wilson, one of the members of the Scordian Society, had actually been one of his CIA controllers and handlers, and one time Kerry was even claiming that the Scordian Society had became sort of a front for the CIA.
Wow.
In later years, Kerry claimed that he and Oswald had been basically a Nazi breeding experiment. They had been basically groomed from birth to as part of some not worldwide Nazi organization to be used, eventually for as Manchurian candidates, and that his parents as well had been spies and during World War II and afterwards. So it's kind of hard to draw the line sometimes between Kerry's escalating paranoia and his later years and what actually happened to him in New Orleans. And other people say Kerry might have been throwing all these weird theories out as red herrings, basically to muddy the waters all the more, and that he had actually been an intelligent agent over the years. Who knows?
Huh. Just gets more and more bizarre.
Yeah.
Okay, gentle listeners, we have to take a break. We'll be back in a few moments with Adam Gorightly here on World of the Unexplained. And we're back to World of the Unexplained. I need to remind you that this show is a pre-record, so there are no numbers and there are numbers, but
there are numbers. They ain't gonna work.
Yeah, basically.
It'll ring and ring and ring, and we won't answer it.
Yeah, just don't bother calling. We're here with Adam Gorightly. We're talking about a number of things, which is a term we're using.
High weirdness.
High weirdness.
Yeah.
And
AdamGorightly.com.
Yes.
And the book we were talking about here recently was The Prankster and the Conspiracy. Is that your top-selling novel, Adam, or what is your top-selling? Is it the Manson book?
No, I think the Manson book has sold the best.
Okay.
Well, tell us some more about the Manson book. I haven't read the Manson book, and I haven't had a chance to procure a copy of the Manson book. But tell our listeners what you talk about in that.
Well, my original interest in writing about the Manson family, over the years I had heard all these various conspiracy theories swirling around the family, that they had been once again a military mind control experiment designed for a number of reasons. And a lot of these theories came from the famous conspiracy researcher, basically the mother of all conspiracy theorists, none other than Mae Brussels, who claimed that the Manson family was basically this mind control experiment designed to bring an end to the 60s counterculture, and what she called a strategy of tension was behind the Manson family. Basically, the hidden government was orchestrating these different strategies of tension to bring unrest in the country, from the JFK assassination to Martin Luther King's assassination, Malcolm X, Robert F. Kennedy, and that the Manson family murders were used in the same method to bring about this tension in the country that would inevitably bring about a police state and eroding of our civil liberties, much in the same way that people, various researchers have claimed the Oklahoma City bombing was used, and also 9/11 to usher in this basically a new world order. So that was one of the reasons that got me interested in writing the book, just to explore different conspiracy theories I heard. And so as I began writing it, I saw I needed to put Manson's whole life in context. I felt that just writing about the conspiracy theories weren't enough. I needed to show some background, put it all into context, and what the book ended up to be was 600, just about 600 pages, and what a lot of people have stated is the most comprehensive book on the Manson family. It's indeed a unwieldy beast, weighing in at a couple pounds.
It sounds like it. That's quite a lot of material.
It does.
Where do you see things going right now? I mean, there's a lot of, I've noticed, and Trent has noticed, and we've talked about this before, how a lot of these different conspiracy ideas and theories all seem to, at this point in time anyway, they all seem to be like converging on the same point. You know, you have your reptilian agenda folks in your David Icke camp, you know, with the Illuminati thing and all that, and you've got your
more geopolitical sort of things like Jim Mars. I mean,
exactly. Who doesn't subscribe to the reptilian agenda, but you know, I mean, Jim talked about the JFK thing, the 9/11 conspiracy, as he called it, and a lot of things like that. Where's
powerful conglomerates of
New
humans.
World Order? Where do you think it's going?
I believe there's something to that theory about the strategy of tension, or there's also a conspiracy researcher by the name of Michael Anthony Hoffman, who talks about the revelation of the method that basically the powers that be over a period of time are gradually revealing the reality of these different things going on behind the scenes, and by the time we're made totally aware of the New World Order and these things coming to be, it'll be a done deal. So there's a mass programming going on, if you buy this theory, that is partly done on a subliminal or a subconscious level. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense to you? Mm-hmm. Where do I see going personally? You know, over the years, with the first Bush, he openly proclaimed, started using the phrase "the New World Order."
Oh, I remember.
And
that wasn't very smart. Yeah.
Hitler used it before him. You had the.
That's great. Go ahead.
Sorry.
In fact, I have. I'm kind of digressing here, but one of the pieces in my book is called. What is? I need to look at the title. Was Hitler a good American? Which looks at the Bush crime family.
Wow.
To answer your question, it seems like things are escalating. I think we all get that sense. It's you know, what Art Bell has been talking about over the years, the quickening, but maybe, you know, that once again, that's just human perception. We're overloaded these days with so many channels and news around the clock, and also overloaded with a lot of fluff, and with the computer age, it just seems like it's hard to separate the signal from all the noise nowadays, but anyway, I try to have a good time.
Well, and that's all you can do.
That was a pretty scrambled answer. Yeah. I don't know where things are going. I try to keep a positive outlook and be upbeat about things, even, you know, with the price of gas
soaring
going up daily.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we should all get biodiesel engines.
Yeah, I think we should. I think we should all convert, go out buy old VWs. And convert them all, and we'll make our own gasoline in our garage.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, really, stick it to them. You
And
know, if we can do the day without a Mexican thing, imagine what the American culture in general can do a day without Exxon. you can threaten these groups one at a time and say, we're not buying gas from Exxon. We're going to put Exxon out of business. And then what happens is Exxon realizes, oh my God, they're buying gas from everybody but us.
That's true. Yeah, that's very
and then
simple.
You threaten them with your own consumer dollars.
You just don't buy it from Exxon,
I love how Bush came out and said, "Come on, people, we're addicted to oil. Wake up!" It's like,
who owns the oil companies?
Who's in bed with?
Yeah,
exactly. As he steps into his Air Force One jet to go somewhere.
It just bothers me that the people in Saudi Arabia can buy gasoline for 60-some cents a gallon, and we use more of it than anybody in the world, and we're paying, well, at least here, we're paying almost $3 a gallon for it. I don't know what it is in California. I'm sure it's probably higher there.
Oh, it's 370, 380.
Could go, yeah, it's about $1, almost $1 more than we're paying. What, $2.86 now? $2.80 something.
Yeah, basically
for regular unleaded gas.
It's just ridiculous.
I never in my wildest dreams could I imagine something that it's awful.
Once again, it almost seems designed to push people to the edge, like they're trying to create the atmosphere where people eventually are going to rebel against this, and maybe that would be the excuse, once again, like a strategy of tension to put in place a police state. These are the type of rumors, conspiracy theories that people involved in militias and movement and whatnot have been talking about over the years, that the government is basically setting up this network of secret concentration camps that will be utilized in this event.
No, I mean, haven't we already created a police state with the trampling of our Bill of Rights? Haven't we created that with the institution of the Patriot Act?
It's a slow erosion, and once again, 9/11 created this atmosphere. Basically strengthening the intelligence agencies and taking away, eroding with the Patriot Act our civil liberties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
By the way, I'd like to welcome our members of the federal government who are listening right now. If you want to call in and talk to Adam Gorightly, you can't. It's a pre-record.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess you'll just have to listen to the pre-record.
Yeah,
but
soon. Okay. Well,
it's
as a disclaimer, I don't believe anything I've said.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
we say the
fair
same
enough.
thing.
Yeah, we're fairly. We emphasize our neutrality.
We don't want the men in black coming to our door.
Yeah.
This SS mentality, though. I mean, it's kind of scary. It takes you back to the Nazi idea of, okay, well, I don't like my neighbor. He pissed me off today. Let's go tell the government that he's a terrorist and we have proof. And then, a day later,
or the Stalinist purges.
a day later, a little black car shows up with some guys in suits. They come out, they take your neighbor away from some quote routine questioning, and the next thing you know, you never see the guy again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's turning people against people.
Creating Snoop Society, and anybody, the administration's trying to create the atmosphere where there's any dissent against what they're doing.
It's unpatriotic.
Yeah,
and that's wrong. I mean, that goes against every principle this country was built upon.
Yeah,
free speech, the First Amendment.
Upside down. Yeah,
it's awful. It's awful.
Well,
I know. I mean, we have a good friend that has a radio show in another part of North Carolina. He actually had the Office of Homeland Security came down to his post office box and apparently locked it up because he was trying to get into it. And they're like, well, you'll need to show us some ID. And he's like,
wow.
I pay my yearly fee for my post office. And they're like, well, this is an Office of Homeland Security matter, sir. We need to see your ID. We need to make sure your address is current. We need this information. We need that information. And he gave it to him, and they let him into the box. But that's just basically, he said it never started until he posted some photos of the smokestack on the moon. I don't know if you're familiar with all that, but yeah. So it's weird.
Yeah, a lot of I've had a lot of strange, curious things happen in regards to phone taps and mail tampered with. For the Prankster and the Conspiracy book, my friend Greg Bishop and I, Greg is the editor of The Excluded Middle, and has written a book called Project Beta on government disinformation in regards to UFOs. Anyway, Greg and I, while I was researching the book on Kerry Thornley, went to interview Robert Anton Wilson, and Greg recorded our interview, and it took a while for him to send the tape to me, and after he sent it, it didn't show up.
Huh.
We're talking several months went by, and lo and behold, it did show up one day about 6 months later.
Good Lord.
And it was obviously the envelope it was in had been tampered with. My conversations with Robert Anton Wilson, I was on his email list for a while, and this was during the period where if you're familiar with the, what was it called, the Office of Information Awareness.
Mm-hmm.
That was the new intelligence branch, and I'm trying to remember who the head of that was, Poindexter.
Okay.
Wilson he knew he was being monitored, so all of his email correspondence he CC'd to John Poindexter. His theory was, he just cut out, save the taxpayers' money.
Just
be one
strip
less
the middleman.
person they needed to look at his email. And it was funny when they came out with the logo for the Office of Information Awareness. It featured the eye in the triangle in it.
Oh, wow.
Which looks similar to the covers for Wilson's book series, the Illuminatus. So kind of spooked him out and a lot of other people that, once again, it was kind of this in-your-face symbology of the New World Order. And once again, Bob Wilson, a few other folks like that, when I talked to them on the phone, you hear the expected clicking of a phone tap.
You would think they would be more, more high-tech about that nowadays.
You would think
so.
Well,
my thinking is they want you to hear that.
They may.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they can get by without making it obvious, but
yeah.
I think it's a form of subtle intimidation.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I don't know, or maybe I'm imagining all this stuff.
Maybe we all are.
Yeah. Maybe, Scott. Maybe,
I
Adam.
must admit, there's been periods in my life where I went a bit off the deep end, overly paranoid with stuff, and I finally got to the point where I decided, I'm not going to worry about it. It's not worth looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
And hopefully those type of folks kind of see me as a clown as well, because a lot of my writing, all of my writing, I try to imbue with a certain sense of humor, and most people aren't sure whether I'm serious or not a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So maybe they don't take me seriously. Hopefully so.
Only time will tell, I guess. Well, let's talk about the Illuminati a little bit, and it's mentioned also in your book. As in addition to Kerry Thornley having connections with Oswald, apparently Kerry concocted some kind of scheme or prank, as you put it, involving the Bavarian Illuminati. Would you like to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes. This happened in the late 60s, and part of it stemmed from the Garrison investigation. He had an investigator by the name of Alan Chapman, who's kind of a John Bircher, as I recall. And Chapman claimed that the Bavarian Illuminati was behind the JFK assassination, so Kerry tweak this guy started claiming that he was a member of the Bavarian Illuminati, of all things. Other people got involved, and it kind of turned into a major hoax. At the time, Robert Anton Wilson was an editor for Playboy. He edited the Playboy forum, and he and Carey kind of concocted a hoax. Part was a letter sent in claiming that the Bavarian Illuminati had been behind all the major political assassinations going on in the country during that period. And what they did by planning these hoax letters was to create this mythology of the Bavarian Illuminati, which seemed to take off during that period, and all of a sudden they seemed to plant a seed that went crazy, and all of a sudden afterwards you had a lot of different people writing about the Illuminati from, not only the Scordian types, but the John Birch Society and religious fundamentalists. And anyway, it became, what the Scordian Society were best at, basically a sociological experiment that kind of ran wild. And so I'm sure they're partly responsible for the myth of the Illuminati that still looms large today, with such researchers as David Icke, once again talking about reptoids and Illuminati bloodlines and all these type of crazy things.
Certainly. Conversely, by staging this big pranks involving the Bavarian Illuminati, if you yourself are not a member of it, all of a sudden they're out there chasing you, Carrie Thornley and everything, trying to, what's going on here, and when it turns out, no, I'm just kidding, I'm not really a member, then if there really is a real Bavarian Illuminati, all of a sudden it just furthers their aims, because they just had this giant red herring scapegoat.
That might as well might be the design behind the machinations of Wilson and Thornley to disguise what was really going on with the Bavarian Illuminati.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a pretty good strategy, and if it just happened to be coincidence, then it would. That's very advantageous.
Are you familiar with the what goes on out at Bohemian Grove every year?
No, afraid not.
In California, it's a famous meeting place for all the major political players in the world. You have former presidents and the like of Henry Kissinger and all these folks showing up and being involved at this Bohemian Grove compound in what has been some people have described as pagan rituals, sacrifice rituals.
Oh, wait a minute! I think Clyde Lewis said something about that once.
Clyde probably did. Actually.
I'm pretty sure he did mention something about that.
Conspiracy researcher Alex Jones. Are you familiar with him?
I'm not. No.
Oh, he has a major radio show. He's pretty popular, and he snuck into Bohemian Grove a few years ago and actually filmed some of these rituals. Anyway, it's a pretty famous scene that goes on there, although it's normally hidden from the public. And during the course of my research, I discovered that during a period in the 70s, Robert Wilson and Camden Benares, members of the Scordian Society, along with Greg Hill, all lived in the same area nearby the California Russian River where the Bohemian Grove is. When later I asked Wilson about this coincidence, he wasn't didn't have much to say on the matter.
Wow. Huh.
And of course, he claims to be the head of the Bavarian Illuminati, but once again, I think he's just joking around. I asked him one time if he would appoint me as a high priest of the Bavarian Illuminati, and indeed he did. So.
Oh, good. Well, that's great.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool, at least. But only if I had a really nice suit to wear, you know. Then I think I can be worthy of.
What's currently in the works, Adam? What are you working on right now?
Oh boy, a number of things. Writing a few articles for a compilation that Disinformation is putting out on religions, and I'm not sure if all or some or none of those will be included in the book, but I'm working on that. Also working on a book about conspiracy researcher, sleuth, James Shelby Downard, which I'm going to tentatively title Downard's Mystical War. Downard came up with a theory years ago about called the King Kill theory, that basically the JFK assassination had been orchestrated by the Freemasons, and that a lot of murders or various things happened along latitude and longitude lines at the 33rd degree, which Dealey Plaza is located. Without getting too deep into it, that's one project. Also kicking around the idea with another writer of writing a biography on Ira Einhorn.
Okay.
Recently, I've also been doing a few speaking engagements. I mentioned
the UFO conference.
Weekend before last, I was at the Retro UFO conference, and I'll also be in Roswell, New Mexico in October for a Halloween event where I'll be presenting that the same thing I did at the Retro UFO, which is titled "Were the Early UFO Contactees Ritual Magicians Who Conjured UFOs?" So I'm working on a number of things. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
You know, that's kind of interesting because we have a have a guest in a couple of weeks, the Prophet Yahweh, who claims to be able to do just that through ritualism.
Have you seen that TV clip?
What's that?
Did you see him on TV on the ABC affiliate? It happened in Nevada.
No, I haven't. I just heard about him. I'll have to tune into that. I can add that to my presentation.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean,
if you go to his website, you can actually see clips of him actually calling down what appear to be UFOs.
Yeah,
calling occupants of interplanetary craft.
That's right.
Well, he claims that it was really wild. I mean, this was done in front of an ABC News affiliate, and they couldn't explain it either. So it's and that's up on his website too. It's pretty wild.
It is pretty strange. Hard to really explain rationally what's going on, but you know.
Well, we're gonna take our. Oh, I'm sorry.
Check that out.
Oh yeah. We're gonna take our last break, and we'll be right back with Adam Gorightly here on World of the Unexplained.
And we're back on World of the Unexplained with Adam Gorightly, author of many a book on the topic of high weirdness.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
A self-described crackpot historian of the very hippest sort. Where did that come from, Adam?
It's such a great title.
It is. It's crazy. Who came up with that?
Actually, I did.
Oh wow. Okay, even better.
Who knows? Had a good ring to it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like being a 33rd degree Mason or 23rd degree Scordian. I see myself. I have an interest in history of high weirdness, and a lot of the things I end up writing about rather dated, the Kerry Thornley book and these other things. So I have a fondness, for the old UFO contactees and these type of things. So that's where the crackpot historian comes in. I'm not sure if I'm describing myself as a crackpot or writing about crackpots, but
or crackpot history.
Yeah, writing on the subject of crackpot history, right?
Yeah.
So
I think we took a couple of classes in college, Scott, on crackpot history. They just didn't call them
that. Oh, yeah, they didn't call them that. They called them real history.
I would love to put on a class on crackpot history. Yeah,
that'd be fun.
I'd take it. That'd be interesting.
Certainly.
Yeah.
I think
that would be very cool.
You get a lot of participants, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Just wait. A class I'm teaching this summer over at the college. I'm not going to mention the college's name. I don't want to get any whiplash from them if they find out I do the show. But I figured the first day I would introduce them to our system of government and then the Illuminati and.
That's a great idea. You should do that.
It's like, welcome to.
Hey, can I attend that class, Scott?
That's the problem with education. It's so. Black and white. It doesn't give people alternatives and throw out the different theories and out there. It's the same argument with teaching religion in the classroom. I'm fine with that, but they can also teach evolution and a number of things and just let people decide things for themselves.
Yeah, I think people, whoever's conducting this policy, basically doesn't realize that at the end it's the individual who makes the decision. So you can throw out as many theories as you want to, but it's up to the individual to decide which they believe and which they don't.
I want to go back to a conversation that we were having earlier about this new police state that the government's instilling from the 9/11 stuff and the JFK assassination, how it's all been building the New World Order idea.
Haven't you got me in enough trouble with them?
I have. You know me. We're gonna. What is it? David Icke says upward and onward or something.
Onward and upward.
Onward and upward. That's it. Yeah. So I just want to, I want to examine this. I don't see, and this is just my take on it. And Trent may disagree with me, and you can tell me if you do. But I don't see any kind of revolution at all, because I think that the American people are so complacent and so lazy and so brainwashed and so manipulated and so fat and lazy that they're not going to get up, because they can't even stand together for anything. So at what point, I just don't see it happening, ever. I don't. I see it being cattle led to the slaughter, the herd, mooing in the distance. I can hear the mooing sounds now almost,
Any revolution or rebellion will happen because the system breaks down. And so potentially for rebellion in the streets, I just basically see a city like Los Angeles with such a heavy gang element, for instance, of the gangs taking over certain parts of certain cities like
Beverly Hills.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Living large, baby.
Yeah, that would be sus.
That's the type of revolution, as far as people waking up, and we're so numb nowadays by everything. We just become many of us a country of sheeple, as Bill Cooper liked to refer to, the late great conspiracy researcher.
Yeah. I don't know what I think about that, Scott. I think yes, we are generally very complacent, but I think there are certain elements in society that aren't. And I don't believe that they probably will. Yeah,
they're the people who live around us. They're the rednecks with the guns, brother.
That's the other thing I would say
North Carolina now, baby.
It's like, boy, I don't know what you're talking about. And they'll just take their squirrel rifles and vanish in the woods, and let's see the feds try and get them. Let's see how long it took. It took the entire federal government.
Rudolph?
Yeah, it took them years to get that guy.
Him, yeah.
One man. So I'm just saying, if there's gonna, that
buy your survival equipment here. www.
I just don't know. I think the federal government. I mean, if there's a conspiracy, if there's some way of trying to create a police state, I really question whether or not it's really going to be successful, and that's just my personal opinion. Because, although I don't know, there's a difference between controlling the way we think and controlling the way we act, and I think
that goes to my next question. But go ahead and finish your thought.
Well, I mean, basically, it comes down to the fact that, okay, you can control what's on TV and the media and stuff like that, but, yes, go ahead. And, but, there's a certain element that Americans in general, I mean, we're historically sort of culturally bound, and the 60s is a great example of this, of, very independent. Maybe sociologically we are those pioneers out there hunting bears and, making our own path in the world. And
the animals changed. The animal's not a bear anymore.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that I think we're sort of predisposed to culturally to that sort of behavior. And I just personally, I don't know. I doubt the credibility of a police state really taking hold. I think the reverse might be more like it, that it made the whole thing might fall apart. And instead of the United States, it's the Federal Republic of, North Dakota or something. I don't know. That we may become.
This goes to my next question. Though. You know about HARP, mind control, and all these technologies that a lot of the conspiracists claim that the government has to control our mind, and they claim that maybe that manipulation can exist through these RFID microchip implants and things of that nature.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, Adam?
Well, that brings to mind another strange experience I had.
Oh,
okay. This happened half a dozen times in a couple different places. And when it happened, I was at home. I was seated on my couch in the same place I always sit. Or the other time it happened was in a restaurant where on a couple occasions where I was seated at the same seat at the same table. And it was pretty odd. It felt like I was being beamed by some type of microwave equipment, the type of things you hear about in the war of mind conspiracy nowadays. What happened was my body temperature, basically in my head, rose enormously. It was like my head was going to explode. My face became, a bright shade of red, and my wife was there each time this happened. And I suspected that somebody was beaming some type of microwave or something at my head. I know this sounds pretty bizarre, and I might sound
we're all
paranoid.
about that.
I don't know exactly if that's what happened, but it was one of those weird things that kind of relates to what people say. One of the things HARP can be used for is to, with different frequencies, basically manipulate people or manipulate the weather, from what I know about HARP. I don't know if that was any kind of
no,
answer to anything, but
that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
No, I did receive an email not too many days ago from Jerry E. Smith, the author of the HARP.
Yeah.
He told me that apparently they had just made some kind of completion on some other aspect of HARP. They claimed it was only going to be so big, and now it's like really, really big, and they just completed the final, I guess, touch-ups on this bigger project, the bigger piece of HARP. So I'll probably see a new book out of him soon.
I'm sure. I'm sure it's bound to happen.
What's Jerry's take on it all?
Well, he believes that they're going to use this. He's not sure what they're going to use it for, but according to what he told us, it seems like he believes they can tune into these frequencies to cause us not only to see things but also to feel certain emotions like fear, anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be used for crowd control.
Mm-hmm.
that's one of, this use of different electronic frequencies and elf waves and all this type of stuff is what John Keel talked about. I was talking about the super spectrum theory once again, that by using these different frequencies, you can basically approximate different types of paranormal phenomena, or create, a certain state in people's mind where they can see UFOs. In fact, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the work of Michael Persinger, a scientist who created a helmet, and this is going back 20 years ago or so, that would basically tune a person's brain to basically approximate the alien abduction experiment. So that's one of the theories that have been around about the UFO phenomena for years, that it is basically a cover for these MK Ultra mind control experiments. And to digress even further, I got an email recently from a purported mind control victim who claimed as a child she dressed up in a little alien gray suit and was part of these type of mock alien abductions that were actually mind control experimentation going on.
Huh.
Wow. I didn't think about that. Using our own children.
Well, we've got about 2.5 minutes left. You can check out Adam's website at www.adamgorightly.com. And, check out the books. He's got some great stuff out there. He's working on some other great stuff. We got about 2 minutes left. Any final words, Adam?
Final words?
Cruise easy and be free. Come and trying to pull up the website. As I mentioned, I'll be appearing in October 28th, at the UFO Museum in Roswell, presenting my lecture where the early UFO contactees, ritual magicians who conjured UFOs, and I don't have the website handy, but if you type in something like Roswell UFO Conference, you'll bring up the website.
Okay, can we access that from your site as well?
I don't have it plugged in, but it's easy enough to find if you just do a search for UFO conferences in Roswell.
Okay.
Mainly that's what I got going on, more radio appearances. I'm going to be on From the Grassy Knoll, if you're familiar with that show, hosted by Visigoth.
Actually, I am, yeah. Great show.
That'll be on, I'm going to be on his show from 2:30 to 4 tomorrow Pacific Standard Time, and thanks for having me today.
Absolutely, Adam. Maybe next time when you come around, we'll be live, and so
it'll be a lot more fun.
We'll have the feds and the Illuminati and
and callers.
Sounds
good.
They'll all call in, and maybe.
Yeah, we'll plan on doing a live show next time.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Adam Gorightly, thank you very much for being on the show.
Very good.
And
thank you, guys.
That concludes this edition of World of the Unexplained.